Hey guys, what's up? This is Ajay. Welcome back to another video. Hope you're doing good. In our previous video, we made enemy characters patrol around, but when an enemy character gets in range of the player, he just stands there doing nothing. And now in this video, we are gonna try to make the character chase the player when he has locked on to him, and maybe even attack the player when he is in range. He is within a certain range of the player. So without further ado, let's get started. So guys, the first thing we want to change here is this variable is patrolling. Here we use a boolean. We can only have two values, either true or false. But if we are going to use an integer over here, we can have different levels to it. Like if we say the integer is 0, then we can say that the enemy is patrolling. If we say it is 1, we can have the enemy chasing the player. And if it is 2, we can have the enemy attack the player. I think enemy mover is not the right place to do this, but for this video, we are going to do it in enemy mover anyway. And when we come to attacking the player, we might want to change it to the enemy controller, but that's then and this is now. So I'm just going to have a integer over here called enemy behavior, and I'm going to set it to 0 as a default. So if the enemy behavior is 0, I'm going to say patrol behavior, and I'm going to add an else if the enemy behavior equals 1. I'm going to say the enemy is going to chase the player. So let's say chase behavior. Alt enter generate method. And here in chase behavior, just like we did with the patrol behavior, here we had an at waypoint method. We checked if the player, the enemy is within a certain small tolerance distance from the waypoint it is supposed to move towards. So just like that, we are going to need to check if the enemy is within a attacking range of the player. Like when the enemy first locks onto a target, it might not be close enough to attack it. It might want to chase down the player to attack it. So we want to know if the enemy has chased down the player and got to that closer distance from the player where the enemy would be able to attack and add damage to the player. So just to check that, we are gonna have a method called at attacking distance. Let's say generate method, and this is kind of just gonna work the same way as the at waypoint method worked. We are gonna have a distance to the player, distance to the target in case of attacking distance, and we are going to constantly check on that distance. And if that distance is less than or equal to a small tolerance value, we are going to say the enemy is within attacking distance of the player. So we're going to need two fields here. Let's say, let's call this distance to target, and stopping distance, because that's a distance where the enemy is going to stop chasing the player and start attacking. And I'm going to set this to 1 as a default. Now here, actually over here at attacking distance, we are going to say distance to target equals vector3 dot distance transform dot position, and we then another variable called target position, which is going to be the position of the player. So let's add this over here in vector3 target pos, and here we are going to return distance to target less than or equal to stopping distance. Now, this setting of this is patrolling is not going to work because we kind of changed the variable to enemy behavior. So let's rename this method as enemy behavior, and let's say we pass in an integer. Take in a parameter called enemy behavior. To set the enemy behavior of this class. Okay, so kind of a spelling mistake or something. Okay, I'm just gonna rename it to enemy behavior, and we're good. Now we are gonna also need the target position, so let's also do that here. Let's say vector3 target pos, and here we are gonna say this dot target pos equal to target pos. Now we are gonna need to go back to enemy controller, and the areas where we call is patrolling is not gonna work. So instead we are gonna call enemy behavior, and here instead of passing in false or true, we are gonna pass in if target is locked, we are gonna pass in 1, and if target is not locked, that means the enemy should be patrolling, then we are gonna pass 0. And here we are gonna add a new field. Let's call it target pos to get the version of the target, and in the update we are gonna check the nearest target is null or not, and if it is not null, we are gonna say target pos equal to nearest target dot transform dot position, and we can pass in this target pos over to the enemy behavior method in the enemy mover class. Okay, why isn't this working? Okay, should be, because that's the method name. Okay, now here in the chase behavior, at if the enemy is at attacking distance, then we are gonna say now mesh agent dot enabled equal to false, because we want the enemy to stop walking. Set that to false. Then we are gonna set the enemy behavior to a new value. Let's say it is 2 now. So when it's patrolling, it's 0. When it's chasing, it's 1. And when it is within attacking distance, it is 2. And else, if the enemy is in chasing behavior but not at attacking distance, then we are going to say now mesh agent dot enabled equals true, and we want the enemy to chase the player. So let's set the now mesh agent destination to target position, and set the enemy behavior back to 1. Now we might want to increase the speed of the enemy when it is kind of chasing the player from its normal walking speed when it is patrolling. So let's add another field here called chase speed, and let's maybe set it to 1 f, and here where we have the speed, here we just set float speed equal to local velocity dot set, and instead of doing that, let's have a ternary operator over here to check the enemy behavior. And if enemy behavior equal to 0, then we are going to say local velocity set. Else if enemy behavior equal to 1, we are going to say that the speed is local velocity dot set plus chase speed. And in any other case, here I can only think of one case, that is the enemy is attacking the player. We might want to add on to this later if we want to make the enemy do something else. But in this case, I'm just going to set it to 0 when the enemy is attacking the player. We don't want the enemy to move around, so I'm just going to set the speed to 0. So this should be fine. Now let's go to Unity and check this out. Let's hit play now. We can already see that this enemy is chasing this player. And now we got 2 enemies chasing us. Once the player has got a certain distance away from the enemy, that is, once the player is not locked on anymore, the enemy is going to return back to patrolling. So that's pretty cool. And thank you for watching, guys. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. That would be really helpful. This is it for this video. Thank you for watching. See you. Bye.